In order to appease or to maintain so-called religious harmony, wiping out the dark chapters of our history from our textbooks is not at all justified. The Great Calcutta Killings is one such dark chapter of our comparatively recent history, which has been completely wiped out from our history textbooks. Hello everyone, my name is Rahul Das and you are watching History is Interesting. On 29 July 1946, Muslim League, together with the rejection of the proposals of Cabinet Mission, adopted a resolution that 16th August 1946 will be the day of direct action in support of Pakistan. Muhammad Ali Jinnah declared, "What we have done today is the most heroic act in our history. Never have we done anything except by constitutionalism. But now we bid goodbye to constitutional methods. Today we have forged a pistol and are in a position to use it." The leaders of Muslim League were very much clear about the purpose of direct action, and in their speeches just few days before 16th August, they openly declared that Muslims are not bound by non-violence, and to achieve the separate state of Pakistan, they can resort to any violent means. The violence that began on 16th August in Calcutta continued till 19th of August. The violence in Calcutta was followed by inconceivable hellish murder, arson, loot, rape, abduction of women and conversions of Hindus to Mohammedans in Noakhali genocide. So now let us talk about the background of the Calcutta killings. In March 1946, provincial elections were held in India. To Mr. Jinnah, this election was a plebiscite of the Muslims on Pakistan, and he was proved correct. Muslim League secured 86.8% Muslim votes and triumphed in every single Muslim constituency for the Central Legislative Assembly. It clearly showed that 86.8% Muslims of India wanted division of the country. In Bengal, the results were more spectacular for the Muslim League. It captured 115 seats out of 123 reserved for the Muslims and formed the ministry under the leadership of Mr. H.S. Sohrawardy. The League leaders got completely intoxicated by the victory at the polls. At the convention of the League legislators, Ismail Chundrigar of Bombay said, "The British had no right to hand over the Muslims to a subject people over whom they have ruled for 500 years. Muhammad Ismail of Madras declared that the Muslims of India were in the midst of jihad, a holy war." Meanwhile, a high-level British delegation called Cabinet Mission arrived in India on 23rd March 1946 to negotiate the terms with the Congress and the Muslim League. The Muslim League agreed to accept the mission plan since it contained the germ of Pakistan. On the other hand, the Congress was in two minds as to whether to accept or to reject the plan. A crisis ensued when Jawaharlal Nehru stated to the press on 10 July 1946 that although his party would join the Constituent Assembly, it was free to change or modify the Cabinet Mission plan as it thought fit. This made Jinnah furious, and he called upon his followers to resort to direct action on 16th August 1946, undoubtedly against the Hindus. At this time, there were only two provinces where Muslim League was in power, Bengal and Sindh. In Sindh, they had a very weak majority, but in Bengal, they had a very strong ministry with Mr. H.S. Sohrawardy as the chief minister. The eastern districts of Bengal had a preponderance of Muslim population, while in the western districts, the Hindus were in a majority. Overall, the Muslims were the majority population of Bengal with 54.3% of total population. Looking at the circumstances, it was decided that Calcutta should be the venue of the opening scene of the dark drama. The fact that in Calcutta Hindus were in the majority did not deter Sohrawardy to take the responsibility of making the direct action a success. He wanted to show the world what Muslim minority can do when they were determined to do violence. He made arrangements for the transfers of Hindu police officers from all key posts. On August 16, 22 police stations out of a 24 were in charge of Muslim officials, and the remaining 2 were controlled by Anglo-Indians. Muslim League called for a total hartal on August 16, and Mr. Shoravadi's government declared August 16 a public holiday. A mass rally and meeting were to be held at the foot of the Oktaloni monument, and Mr. Shoravadi was to preside over it. The program reminded the Muslims of what stuff they were made. Muslims must remember that it was in Ramzan that the Quran was revealed. It was in Ramzan that the permission for jihad was granted by Allah. It was in Ramzan that the Battle of Badr, the first open conflict between Islam and heathenism, was fought and won by 313 Muslims. And again, it was in Ramzan that 10,000 under the Holy Prophet conquered Mecca and established the Kingdom of Heaven and the Commonwealth of Islam in Arabia. The Muslim League is fortunate that it is starting its action in this holy month. Another leaflet containing a special prayer for the crusade is worth quoting here. By the grace of God, we are 10 crores in India. But through bad luck, we have become slaves of the Hindus and the British. We are starting a jihad in your name in this very month of Ramzan. We promise before you that we entirely depend on you. Pray make us strong in body and mind. Give your helping hand in all our actions. Make us victorious over the Kafirs. Enable us to establish the Kingdom of Islam in India and make proper sacrifices for this jihad. By the grace of God, may we build up in India the greatest Islamic kingdom in the world. A leaflet bearing a picture of Mr. Jinnah with a sword in hand said, "The sword of Islam must be shining on the heavens and will subdue all evil designs. We Muslims have had the crown and have ruled. Do not lose heart. Be ready and take your swords. Think you, Muslims, why we are under Kafirs today? The result of loving the Kafirs is not good. O Kafir, do not be proud and happy. Your doom is not far, and the general massacre will come. We shall sow our glory with swords in hands and will have a special victory." Another leaflet asked the Muslims to come into the arena with their swords and change their tactics. "We shall then see who will play with us, for rivers of blood will flow. We shall have the swords in our hands, and in the noise of takbir, tomorrow will be doomsday." On the other hand, the Hindu Mahasabha, which was the prominent Hindu party in Bengal, in its pamphlet 16th August Beware, urged the Hindus to give a clear answer to this act of effrontery. It is the duty of every Hindu to carry on as usual his normal occupation. The Hindus must make organized efforts to see that no Hindu, non-Muslims or non-League Muslims is forced to join the hartal. We therefore request the public to continue on that day their normal work. They must not yield to any coercive measures. Remember that to join the hartal is to support the demand for Pakistan. Trouble started in the early hours of 16th August when the volunteers of Muslim League tried to force Hindu shopkeepers to close their shops. At least 7 days before the outbreak, the inhabitants of Muslim bastis were seen sharpening their daggers and spears. The Muslim League knew that there would be huge casualty, which is proved by the fact that League volunteers were kept in cities' major hospitals to ensure that Muslim victims receive attention. The people who had come to attend the meeting, that is the meeting at the Oktaloni monument, had also come prepared to kill and loot. They were armed with muskets, crowbars, huge daggers and swords, large pieces of stones, and of course the Muslim League flag. After the meeting, they spread out, howling their battle cries, Allahu Akbar, Pakistan Zindabad, Muslim League Zindabad, लेकर रहेंगे पाकिस्तान, लड़के लेंगे पाकिस्तान. Whenever they saw an open shop, they ordered the owner to close it at once. If this demand was not complied with, immediately the shopkeeper was beaten and his goods were looted, or thrown out into the street. The unfortunate victims were almost invariably Hindus, for all Muslim shops were observing Hartal. For 2 days, the police were almost completely inactive or evasive. Appeals for assistance were answered with, "We have no orders." Police stood watching the burning and looting of houses with calm indifference. For a day and a half, the Muslim rioters held their own. The tide of the battle then began to turn and Hindus and Sikhs began to hit back. It was only when this change began to spell disaster for the Muslims that military assistance was summoned. The looting and killing went on continuously for 2 days. The shops of Hindus were looted, a number of temples were attacked and burned down. Sohrawardi was in complete sympathy with the Muslim rioters. Notter James, the Deputy Commissioner of Police, testified before the Inquiry Commission that while the Chief Minister was most anxious to protect mosques, hardly any picket was placed to guard Hindu shrines. Conditions only started improving from 20th August, but the streets were full with dead bodies, which lay thus for several days, giving out a foul stench. Many dead bodies were pushed down the manholes. A large number of Muslims were also killed or wounded. The properties were also damaged. This was not what Mr. Sohrawardi or Mr. Usman had hoped or anticipated. It was clear that direct action day plans had miscarried. The British cannot be absolved of responsibility for the killings. Armed police and Anglo-Indian armed sergeants were there in plenty, sitting idle. And further, there was sufficiently large military force available at a minute's notice. In the end, I would like to quote from extracts of a military report on the Calcutta riots. "There is hardly a person in Calcutta who has a good word for Sohrawardi, respectable Muslims included. For years, he has been known as the king of the Gundas, and my own private opinion is that he fully anticipated what was going to happen and allowed it to work itself up, and probably organized the disturbance with his Gunda gangs, as this type of individual has to receive compensation every now and again. It is difficult to estimate the number of casualties, but I should say it is somewhere in the region of 2,000 to 3,000 at least. There were corpses all over North Calcutta. They were in rivers, canals, side lanes, in fact everywhere. The number of shops looted and burnt must be somewhere in the region of 2,000 to 3,000. So in this video, I presented some of the facts related to this horrific incident. Our history books are silent about these facts. Facts which though are painful but of utmost importance to understand contemporary events. So do let me know in the comment section if you knew about this chapter of Indian history. And you can also share if you have some information of the event. Dhanyavad.